Welcome to the awards ceremony for the Spring 2026 Junior Scholars Essay Contest. We'll get started in about 2 minutes, but while we wait, would love to hear from you guys where you're from, so that we can, in some way, start getting to know each other. So if you could drop in the chat where you're calling from, city, country, would be super helpful. I see Dubai, I see Dublin, California, Pakistan, Mumbai, India. On a train in Germany. That's a new one, Hannah. We haven't had that at one of these ceremonies before. Jeju, South Korea, which I've heard is beautiful and I really want to visit. Malaysia, New Jersey, Irvine. I see a Vietnam, and Ohio, a Poland, from Georgia, Connecticut, Miami, Hyderabad, India, Chennai, India, Texas, Jakarta, Indonesia. This is incredible. I see someone from Finland as well, South Korea, Brazil, France. What an international crew. Thank you everyone for joining. Excellent. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone calling in from all across the world. It's so wonderful to see you all here. And thank you for participating in the Spring 2026 Junior Scholars Essay Contest. And congratulations for making it to this point. So if we could move to the next slide. The agenda for today is pretty straightforward. I'll kick off with just saying a little bit about the competition and why we're all here. We'll then pass to our amazing keynote speaker, Dr. Rebecca Carter from Brown, for her keynote speech. We'll then go through the winners of the competition, the winners of the top prizes, the bronze, silver, and gold medalists. And then we'll also go through the honorable mentions and merit awards before a couple of closing remarks. I see Joel saying that he's experiencing an echo. Can everybody else hear me okay? I think if you guys can all hear me okay, then Joel, you might want to put in headphones or something like that. But thank you for flagging that. If anyone else has any issues, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Go to the next slide, please. So before we dive into kind of the competition and the awards, I want to start, as we always do, with a story about who we are and why we do what we do. So my name is Dhruva. I'm one of the co-founders of Lumiere, the organization that hosts the Lumiere Junior Scholars Essay Contest. And I grew up in a city in India, in a city in South India called Chennai. I suspect most of you don't know where that is, so I've marked that out on a map for you. And growing up, I don't think I knew a single person with a PhD. I think growing up in an Indian family, if I looked really hard, I probably could have found someone who was doing research in engineering or medicine, but those weren't the topics I was interested in. I did debate in middle school and high school, and I was interested in questions that were in the social sciences, questions like why are some countries rich and other countries poor? What causes ethnic conflict and how do you prevent it? These were the questions that I was interested in, and I wasn't sure how to dig deeper into them. And so I applied to university in the States. I thought a liberal arts degree would be a good place to do that. And I was lucky enough to get into Harvard, where I did a bachelor's degree in economics. But even at Harvard, I was knocking on the doors of professors, trying to get access to research opportunities, only to be told you're a first year student, you're a sophomore. What could you possibly add to our research? That all changed for me when I was accepted into a one-on-one research mentorship program the summer after my sophomore year of college over at the Harvard Business School. And it blew my mind that there were people whose full-time jobs was to think about the world, write about it, and that others would actually care enough to read and engage with their thinking. I continued doing research through my junior and senior years of college, decided that I'd become a professional nerd and went straight to graduate school over in the UK, where I did a master's and a PhD in international development at Oxford. So doing that research program really put me on a lifetime of research. But that also changed my life in another way, in that I met the other beaming young man you see there on the screen. That's my co-founder, Stephen. And if I came from a background where I didn't know a single person with a PhD, Stephen came from a lineage of academics. His father was a professor of business at the University of Missouri, and his great grandfather, Fritz Kahn, whose book you see there on the screen, was such a prominent researcher in Germany that when Fritz had to flee Germany because of the Holocaust, the person who wrote him a letter that got him asylum in the United States was Albert Einstein. So that's the kind of background that Stephen came from. But for him, the one-on-one research program had a different benefit in that he got access to mentors, people who were in his field a few years ahead of him, who he could turn to with questions about his school work, about his career, and so on. And so many years later, we reconnected and we were reflecting on how formative that research program had been for us. And so we started the Lumiere Research Scholar Program now over 5 years ago. And over the last 6 years, we've had the pleasure of working with thousands of students from over 140 different countries, building a pool of amazing PhD mentors from some of the top universities in the world. It's been incredible to work with these students and see the kinds of research that they do. We've also had the pleasure of working with a ton of middle school students through our Junior Explorer program, which is an 8-week program for middle school students to explore their academic interests. And you get to work with a mentor and build a presentation or a proposal or a research project with them. If you go to the next slide, can we move on? But we also recognize that not everybody has the time or the resources or the interest to pursue a months-long research program. But we care about making sure that incredibly talented middle school students like yourselves have the space and the time to wrestle with big questions, to push beyond easy answers, and to build the habits of mind that last a lifetime. And so that's why we created the Junior Scholars Contest to offer opportunities for each of you to step outside of the day-to-day of your school and life and work and take a few moments, take a few hours to think about some of the biggest issues that are facing our world today, and to have your voices heard and recognized by some of the top academics in the world. We could not have done this without our academic advisory board. This is comprised of incredible academics from places like Cambridge and Brown, Columbia, and Dartmouth, who've helped us both structure the competition, pick the prompts, as well as review the essays. So here's who you are up against. So as you can see, there are many, many people on this call, and that's because we had over 500 submissions from 48 countries for the Spring 2026 Junior Scholars Essay Competition. And here's what's on the table. For the big prize winner, the gold prize winner, you have the opportunity to win $2,700 worth of prizes, which includes a $300 cash prize and scholarships to our programs. The bronze prize winner is a $100 cash award and $1,400 in scholarship to our programs. And the silver is a $200 cash award and over $1,800 worth of scholarships, in addition to which there are honorable mentions, excellence awards, distinction awards, and rising scholars awards as well. If you're in this room, you know what the prompts were, and we put a lot of thought into picking prompts that reflect the kinds of issues that the world is facing right now. So here's the prompts that we had for this year's essay contest. First, to what extent should foreign countries intervene when a nation commits domestic atrocities? There's all sorts of things happening around the world. How should other countries respond to it? Second, how might art be a catalyst for social change? If you're in middle school, you're probably thinking about how you want to spend your time. What do you want to do as a career? Lots of people tell you that art is something that can't help make money. No one pays attention to it anymore. And at the same time, you have huge, huge popular artists, people like Cat's Eye and Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar, booming in success. So, how might art of all kinds be a catalyst for social change? The third is if you invented something that could save millions, but also kill millions, would you share it? As you can imagine, this is built on generations of experience that we've had with scientific technology, things like nuclear energy, things like genetic modification, things like AI that we see today, which have huge positive benefits, but also potential negative repercussions. And the question is, what is the moral obligation of people who invent these types of technology? The fourth is, should rich countries bear more of the cost of solving the climate crisis? There's no doubt that we're in a rapidly warming world, and if we don't take incredibly radical action, there will be serious consequences for all of us and our planet. But who should bear the cost of taking those actions? Is it people in developing countries who are likely to experience the brunt of these harms, or is it people in wealthier countries who are relatively insulated but might have more resources and probably also contributed more to the climate crisis? And finally, should we be spending billions on space exploration when problems on Earth remain unsolved? We all saw the Artemis launch last year, or was it this year? I can't remember anymore what is time even, but we saw the launch. We saw how exciting it was for astronauts to be out in space and take photos of the Earth, and it gave us all a sense of awe and wonder. But what was the cost of it, and is it worth it? I'm curious. I can see in the chat that you guys are chatting about which ones you did, but I'm also curious to see which one do you think had the most submissions? I'm seeing some two, one, five, three, four, mixed opinions, but I think that the majority of the group have it. You guys are right that the prompt that got the most submissions was number five on space exploration. Clearly, that touched a chord, but we obviously got some amazing submissions across all of the others as well. In a moment, we'll be going through the people that responded to these prompts, i.e., all of you, and specifically going through who won our big prizes. But before we do that, I'd like to pass on to Dr. Rebecca Carter for our keynote speech. Dr. Rebecca Louise Carter is an associate professor of anthropology at Brown University, a cultural anthropologist and artist whose teaching puts equal weight on critical and creative thinking, exactly the mix that this contest asks of you. We're so excited to have Dr. Carter here. Please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Can you all hear me okay? Wonderful. So thank you. I'm delighted to be here, really grateful for the invitation. It's honestly quite an experience to be on this call with so many bright young minds from all over the world. You represent, honestly, the next generation of critical thinkers and creative problem solvers, which is both inspiring and hopeful. This is exactly what Lumiere Education is about. Programs like this do more than contribute to the production of knowledge. They empower young people like yourselves to develop strong habits of mind. So first, I would like to extend my congratulations to all of you who took the initiative to write and submit an essay. Even though this is a competition, the exercise alone, the curiosity and concern you have about the world that it reflects, and the practice it provides for critical and creative thinking is a prize on its own. So congratulations to each and every one of you, and welcome to this celebration of your collective efforts. As a cultural anthropologist, I study the diversity of human experience. Yet I'm also deeply invested in the betterment of the human condition. While this means that I focus necessarily on the impact of vulnerability and violence around the world, I am ultimately concerned with the ways in which these conditions are transformed. And my own research and writing projects examine where and how people live and what they imagine and do to bring about change for themselves, their families, and communities. It's important to note, however, that I also consider myself an artist. This is a long-term passion going back to my childhood. As an undergraduate student at Northwestern University, I even double majored in psychology and art theory and practice with a focus on painting and printmaking. This early foundation in the craft of social inquiry really shaped the work I would do later at the University of Michigan, where I earned my PhD in anthropology. My research, writing, and teaching continues to develop with an emphasis on critical and creative thinking and practice. These skills are fundamental for navigating the complexity of the world, for asking the kinds of questions that need to be asked, for making sense of what we learn, and for sharing that knowledge with others. There is a quote that I like by Margaret Mead, arguably the world's most famous anthropologist, that describes this approach to social inquiry in terms of wonder, the curiosity one has about the world and where that leads. As she stated, quote, wonder is very important because if we never wondered, we would never get to the point of asking questions. Yet wonder may lead people to write poetry or to paint pictures or to pray, as well as to ask the kinds of questions about the world and themselves that can be answered by science, end quote. In my own experience, however, wonder alone is not enough. One also needs determination, resolve, and resources to work through challenges as they arise. For example, one of my own teachers once told me that I do my best work in the wee hours of the morning, after I have been up all night grappling with a problem and have ripped apart my paper or painting or whatever I have been working on and must start again. While I did not think that this was a compliment at the time, nor would I encourage it as a strategy, it highlights the moment when we let go of the ideas or forms we have been holding on to and see what might emerge instead, the alternative configurations or conclusions that might be drawn. This is the hard work of critical and creative thinking as practice. And it moves us, if we're lucky, from a state of not knowing to an aha moment, a sudden and satisfying flash of understanding when and how things come together. Research and writing comes alive through this kind of puzzling, where the production of knowledge occurs not just for the sake of science, but for what that knowledge can do in the collaborative work of social and environmental repair. We don't write in a vacuum. We write for a particular audience and with a specific purpose in mind, to assert a viewpoint, to present evidence in support of an argument, to be part of a conversation about the world that is bigger than ourselves. I had the pleasure of submitting a prompt for this year's junior essay competition, and the one that I came up with, perhaps not surprisingly, given everything I've just said, was the following: how might art be a catalyst for social change? Looking back at this and all the other prompts, I'm struck by the concerns they share and reference, from climate change and the atrocities of the world, to the decisions we need to make about what to prioritize, to the catalysts for change in the work ahead. I wish I had had the opportunity to read through all of your responses, and I hope those of you who responded to the prompt I submitted found it good to think with. Beyond the space it provided to test out your ideas and grow your writing abilities, I hope it affirmed your own investment in the creative capacity for change. This investment is essential in an age of artificial intelligence where AI can generate thousands of words in just a few seconds. This is changing how young people learn. A study by the Rand Corporation in the US found that over 60% of middle school and high school students use AI for help with their homework. Yet an even greater percentage of this same population, 67%, considered AI to have a negative impact on their ability to think independently and critically. Writing exercises like this essay competition are therefore really important. They allow you to determine, without external reliance on a machine or algorithm, what questions you have about the world. They teach you how to work through problems, how to articulate your own thoughts and ideas, and how to share your findings with others. I hope you can see from this very gathering what that can produce, the shared impact that good research and writing can have. Generative AI may be quick, but it can't match your own specific reasoning power. And it certainly can't replicate the pride that I hope each of you feels from your accomplishments or the inspiration I hope you now have to continue this work. In closing, as you move into high school, college, and beyond, I hope you will keep a sense of wonder and curiosity at the center of your studies. Ask questions about the world. Engage in both critical and creative thinking as you consider and puzzle through the problems you care about and encounter. Don't be afraid of not knowing. That's the space of learning where the aha moment occurs. And keep at it. Regardless of whether or not you receive an award today, I hope you remember that the practice, the sharper mind, is the prize. Finally, remember that research and writing are relational practices. None of this happens in a vacuum. The creation and sharing of knowledge is fundamentally a relational enterprise. So take a moment to think about who has helped you, your family, teachers, mentors, and friends, and let them know how grateful you are. And please know also how very proud we are of you. Congratulations again, and best wishes for your continued success.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. That was incredibly thoughtful. Some of the things that were happening in the chat while you were speaking was you triggered a debate about AI and what its consequences for this generation will be. Some of the other remarks were someone said, "You speak so well." I think that really resonated. Someone said the prompt was really interesting and nice and thoughtful and got them thinking a lot. And my favorite was someone described your speech as tough, TUFF, which the internet tells me means cool and impressive and highly skilled. So thank you for that prompt as well as those remarks. Really appreciate you spending your Sunday morning with us. And with that, let's turn to the awards. Fabulous. So we have three bronze medalists for this competition. As a reminder, bronze medalists win a $1,500 scholarship to any junior research scholar program and a $100 cash award. So without further ado, the first bronze medalist is, drum roll please, Anna Sharma from the eighth grade from Thomas Grover Middle School in the United States. Anna wrote an essay on the prompt, Should Rich Countries Bear More of the Cost of Solving the Climate Crisis? The judges said that this was a morally serious and well-researched essay, that the integration of per capita versus absolute emissions data was a particularly sharp analytical move, complicating the China counter-argument with real nuance. The closing reframe, that this is not an act of charity but a matter of justice, gave the argument real moral weight. Here's an excerpt from Arna's essay. Poorer countries would be 4 times more exposed to the rise of climate change than their rich peers by 2050. The effects of climate change will not remain contained, and even affluent countries will face severe consequences in the long run. Congratulations, Arna. The next bronze medalist is Justin Zheng from Xiamen International School, China. And Justin wrote about the topic, should we be spending billions in space exploration when problems on Earth remain unsolved? The judges said Justin's essay was an ambitious essay that refuses the binary space or Earth framing and builds a layered case across three pillars: public goods economics, long-termist moral philosophy, and a thoughtful rebuttal of the opportunity cost argument. They said that this was strong intellectual seriousness for a seventh grader. Here's an excerpt from Justin's essay. From the orbit, astronauts gaze down at Earth, a blue marble uh, at the size of one's palm, sitting silently in the void. The restrictions shrink, conflicts vanish, the planet feels impossibly small. The final bronze medalist for the Lumiere Junior Scholars Essay Competition is Tajdeed Bari from the Oxford Academy in the United States. And Tajdeed wrote an essay on the prompt, to what extent should foreign countries intervene when a nation commits domestic atrocities? Here's what the judges said about Tajdeed's essay, that it reads at a level well above typical undergraduate work. The move that stands out is arguing that humanitarian intervention should be judged not by whether it satisfies the intervening state's conscience, but by whether it produces real security and self-determination for affected populations. That's a graduate level standard of evaluation in an eighth grade essay. Here's an excerpt from Tajdeed's essay. The states whose humanitarian rhetoric generates the greatest resistance are precisely those most capable of mobilizing intervention. Congratulations to our bronze medal winners. And before we move on to the silver and gold medalists, I'd love to hear from you. What's something that you've learned from writing your essay? I see effective atomic bombs, that it takes time, the complexity of perspectives, how art can truly make an impact on people, to always check your sources, different types of foreign interventions in the world, that you have to be patient, how to look at a situation from another point of view, about international law, the ramifications of other people's hypotheses, that art is more than any AI, learned about how COVID killed people, but it helped so many people. Mariam learned what sovereignty is. Jada fixed their grammar. Um, the learning goes beyond the classroom. That Crime and Punishment is a tough novel to sift through to find quotes from. The effects that art can have on different topics like racism and climate change. How much AI affects the workforce. Uh, that we need to be patient, that writing an essay can be psychologically challenging. Lots and lots of interesting takeaways, both content-based as well as skills-based. And I'm glad to see you all reflect on that. And that was exactly the goal of the essay contest. So regardless of whether you win a prize today or not, I hope you take a moment to recognize the work that you put in and the pride that you should have in everything that you've learned along the way. With that, let's move into the silver medalists. We have two silver medalists who are winning a $2,000 scholarship to any junior research scholar program, as well as $200 in cash. Our first silver medalist is Dia Anand from the United World College of Southeast Asia, Singapore. Dia wrote an essay on the prompt, if you invented something that could save millions but also kill millions, would you share it? This is what the judges said about Dia's essay. Originality is the standout quality. Dia synthesizes legal, psychological, and philosophical frameworks towards a thesis that goes against the popular answer. The secrecy of the invention matters nearly as much as its power because control is what makes immense power safe rather than terrifying. Thoughtful, creative, and convincing. Here's an excerpt from Dia's essay. In, the secrecy of the intervention is nearly as important as its power, as the ability to control its usage is the ideal way to soothe both the inventor's conscience and the invention's threats. Inventions with immense power are only terrifying when they are not controlled. Congratulations, Dia. Our final silver medalist is Tae-yoon Kim from the North London Collegiate School in Jeju, South Korea. Tae-yoon wrote an essay on how might art be a catalyst for social change. The judges said Tae-yoon's essay is beautifully written with elegant structural unity and an original voice. The Le Corbusier to Korea connection is the most original move in the essay, drawing on lived cultural experience to show art's transformative power in a way no textbook example could. The Michelangelo angel in the marble framing carries the whole piece. Here's an excerpt from the essay. Michelangelo once declared that he saw an angel trapped inside the marble, and he carved the stone until he set it free. The essay continues. Perhaps we already hold the hammer in our hands without knowing what kind of angel might be trapped within the marble before us. Congratulations, Taeyun, and and both silver medalists. We're about to go into the big prize of the night, which is the gold medal winner for the Spring Junior Scholars Essay Competition. Before we go into that, we talked about what you learned from your essay. I'd love to hear about something that you'd like to deepen or test in a future project. So, what's something that you learned in the process of writing your essay? Something about the topic that made you go, I'd like to spend a bit more time digging deeper into that, learning more about that. Genetic modification in humans, how to dissolve corporate America, what does NASA hope to gain from its presence on Mars, chemical warfare, philosophy, the effect that AI has against polar bears. Michael, I had no idea that AI has a meaningful effect against polar bears. That's really sad to hear. The United Nations Charter, will space exploration continue to take place regardless of its price? Trying to control robots, the benefits of exploring new planets, NATO and how it can improve when it performs an act of humanitarian intervention, why cures aren't shared that much, what resources can you really trust and use, Operation Epic Fury and the intervention paradox, testing AI in space, the importance of racism and climate change, the horrors and effects of war, more about the mental health struggles in our world, how we can fund space exploration more effectively. These are the seeds that hopefully will take you very far. I would love to see 5, 10 years from now, people from this call who are doing PhDs in these topics, who are doing cutting edge research on these topics at places like MIT and Harvard, who are changing the world, writing books, creating inventions. And all I can ask is that you continue nurturing the seed that's been planted in you, that you continue reading and writing and engaging with the world. And with that, let's move on to the gold medalist for the Junior Scholars Essay Competition, who's winning a $2,690 scholarship to any Junior Research Scholar program and a $300 cash prize. The gold medalist winner is, I guess before we dive into what it is, here are the judges' comments on this essay. The judge said, this is a standout essay that earns its perfect score, a perfect score, through evidence, logic, and the courage to reject the prompt's binary framing. The reframing of the central question from space versus Earth to cooperation versus waste is the essay's most original move. And the comparative budget analysis, military spending, corruption, fossil fuel subsidies, tax abuse gives that reframing serious empirical weight. Here's an excerpt. A while back, my family took a cab to a jungle safari. Our driver, Manjunath uncle, had his phone propped on the dashboard, his eyes flicking between the road and the Uber app while the GPS kept rerouting through traffic. He had been driving since 5 a.m. That was how he fed his family. I didn't think much of it at the time, but weeks later, reading about whether countries should fund space programs when so many people are still poor, I kept coming back to him. That little blue dot on his screen exists because of satellites orbiting 20,000 kilometers above us. The same space programs, some people argue, we should defund because there are bigger problems on Earth. And the person who wrote this incredible essay and the winner of the gold medal is Tanveer Bhutiani from the Indus International School, India, who wrote Beyond False Choices, the Space Exploration Debate. Congratulations to Tanveer and all of the winners of the big prizes today. Those are not all the prizes on offer. In addition to the real prize of learning and the friends you made in the chat, we also have honorable mentions, which go to 55 students from 14 countries, including 31 grade 8 students, 19 grade 7 students, and 5 grade 6 students who are winning a $1,250 scholarship to any of these programs. And the honorable mentions are the folks on this slide. I'll give you a second to look through it and see if you're one of the honorable mentions. If you are, congratulations. We could move on to the next slide. The other merit awards, i.e., the Excellence Award, the Distinction Award, and the Rising Scholars Award, will be announced by email right after the award ceremony. So keep an eye out on your email to see if you won one of these prizes. But thank you all again for participating. A reminder that the final results come out today, right after the award ceremony. For those of you who have won an award and might be interested in applying it to one of our Junior Research Scholars programs, there's an info session about our programs on May 27th, and the deadline to claim your scholarship is May 31st. Once again, incredibly proud of all of you for taking the step to work on these essays. We really enjoyed reading them and were blown away by the quality of essays all around. Congratulations to all of the winners. And we're excited to keep cheering you on as you go on to do amazing things with your writing, with your reading, with your thinking, and your work. Thank you again, and have a good rest of your Sunday.